This is Kulali and her owner Garth. Garth was a successful engineer who started building Kulali as his final life project. Unfortunately, Garth never got to see her finished. I've been lucky enough to take the challenge on of completing her build and one day to sail her around the world. Similar to Garth, I'm a passionate engineer who loves to know how things work and how to build things. Join me on this journey to bring Garth's dream to life. This is Sailing Kulali. Alright, we're back again. Yesterday we did the sewage tanks down there, and today we're gonna weld in the water tanks here and here, and then also put the put the sealing arrangement onto the lids of the sewage tanks and then do a pressure test. But first we need to fix this aircon. Seen better days. And this hose just keeps breaking apart. So you can see here, I've taken back the oxide layer, and that's so that you can weld the aluminium properly. The oxide layer, which is the grey area, protects the aluminium from corrosion, but it's also 2 times the temperature for welding, so to penetrate through it is quite difficult. So that's why you remove the oxide layer. Those are the 2 holes that I'm plugging up that were already there from lifting or something, so we've got to seal those. That's the fill point, and the same thing over here, fill point and the 2 holes that I'm plugging. So that's one of the welds. You can see it'll probably need to be a bit TIG dressed. A bit fat on that side because I was overlapping the other weld. I mean, wasn't that unhappy with this weld. You can see the penetration on the inside. Yeah, so TIG dressing is just going to clean up any of the bits where I can't, there might have been, I don't know, some inclusion like that where it's called the frog, where you let off on the welder and it cools too quickly and it sucks in, so you TIG it, so then basically it closes that hole up. It also cleans the weld. So you can see this one, not as good as the last one, a couple of overlaps here, so that there, where there's a bit of a hole, that can be cleaned with the TIG. You can actually fuse those together. Again, non-structural. This is just for the filler of the water tank. Even in the worst case, if it fails, I can get a compression plastic fitting. Don't stress. So next step is to TIG dress it, and then once it's TIG dressed, I can go back to the sewage tanks and pressurize those to test them. So put the seals on them, pressurize them, same as the diesel tanks. This is the shit that always happens. I was just TIG dressing these welds and I dropped that, and so that broke, and hopefully I have a spare. If not, it's going to be like an hour turnaround to fix that. It's like 45 degrees in here. I think it's like 35, but it's pretty hot. Yeah. So that's the broken part, plastic cracked, and this is a box of other parts. Let's see if this guy is the same. Red though, maybe. It's just got a sort of a red seal, it's got a green one. Alright, seems to have fit. Not sure if it was sealed, but because it's got a smaller gasket on it. But yeah, we'll try it.
Alright, so that, believe it or not, has been TIG dressed. All the black stuff is on all the impurities that it pulls up. So if I brush it now, so there you go. Doesn't look pretty, but it's much better than when it's just MIG welded. So the TIG basically just like fills in any of those holes that you get from overlapping and being a shit welder. I'm not a welder. All right, so we've got the starboard side freshwater fill welded in and the holes plugged up. The port side freshwater fill point in and the holes plugged up. So now I'm gonna go back to these sewage tanks which we welded in and TIGged up yesterday, and we're gonna put the seal on. We're gonna put the cork gasket on. Then we're gonna put the breather tube in, which is that thing, and just plug it up like how we've done that. Then we're going to bolt up the tank, cap it like we've capped those. I've got some more 3D printed caps there. Then we're going to bolt it up, seal it, cap it, seal that, and then pump in air like we did with that using the bicycle pump, and check for leaks. And wherever there's leaks, we just need to seal those up, and then the sewage tanks will be done. Again, I think the most important ones are the fuel tanks, where you really don't want leaks. It's diesel. With the sewage tanks, like the small leaks that we saw on those tanks, I don't think it would matter for this. So to continue these lids, we need to take the lids off, put the seal onto the lids, and then we also need to buff back the aluminium ready for a mating surface of the cork gasket. All right, so these are now buffed back with a wire wheel just to get a better bonding surface for the contact adhesive and cork gaskets. Because these are sewage tanks, I think it will be all right to use some sealant as well to help with the sealing, because the reason why you don't with diesel is because the diesel will eat the sealant, but because these are sewage, it should be all right. So yeah, now we'll cut the gaskets out, bond them on, and go from there. Right, so out of that stuff, which is like a 1.5 2 mil gasket, cut these strips, and these strips will go onto the flange, and we're just going to contact adhesive them down. Then we're still going to double up with Sikaflex on the other side, just for the complicated parts like this bit. There seems to always be a leak there. Yeah. Okay, these are, I just need to trim this guy. That guy's not trimmed. But this is the 2 mil, 1 mil gasket that's been put on. And so you can see, like here, I didn't do a great job, but because, well, now I'm thinking these might be now I'm thinking these might be water tanks, but anyways, you've just put some Sikaflex on there, it's fine. It's not like the diesel tanks. The diesel tanks are really made sure to have these gaps really tight. But because I can use Sikaflex on the water tanks and the waste tanks, should be all right. So yeah, these two are done. Now I just got to place them on the boat, put some bolts through them, and then pressurize them.
again. Just blowing hot air in. It's 35 degrees in here. Alright, so that tank went in, that lid went in really nicely. That really squared up, so didn't even need the Sikaflex. That is partially tightened. The way that you do gaskets is you're meant to let it set a little bit so it gets a little bit hard, and then you compress it so it's like an O-ring seal, rather than if you just squeeze it all out now, it becomes too thin, and then it doesn't seal. So we'll let that one, we'll tighten a little bit more, and then we'll let that one sit, and we'll do that one. Alright, so those two tanks now have lids. That's just, these bolts are temporary. I've just got to wait for the store to open to be able to get the right bolts, which are those ones. Bolts on both sides allow it to be tensioned better than those pan Phillips type. So the next thing on that will be to change the bolts over. Then I can put the same caps onto the things that we welded on, and then pressurize the tanks and just double check that they will work. I just got a text message from Des who said that maybe putting waste inside those tanks might be a bad idea. So we'll consider that. I think urine's pretty bad for aluminium, but then I've also seen aluminium tanks for sewerage. So we might leave those as water tanks, but it'll be a little while before poo goes into the boat anyways. In the worst case, I'll put a poly tank somewhere inside there, maybe under that thing. There's going to be a lot of space anyways. Low down's always the best. I guess you won't want to keep sewage in the boat for too long. These other tanks, forward and aft, I will just seal them up now. Like I'll just put gaskets on them, but I won't be pressure testing them because I don't see me using them for a little while. And in the future, like, I can always do this process again. It's just a really long process. Like, it's been a really, really long process. So the last thing in here is I need to get the pickup tubes for the right size for the water tanks. Weld that into lid. Do the same thing for the lid as we've done there. Then we can pressurize that as well. So then that would be the diesel tanks good, the sewage tanks good, and the water tanks good. Then that means that I can put in the plumbing for those, and that also means that this area for the engine bay can be cleaned out. I won't need to access it to fix any welds, so the engine can go in. So now that the tanks are getting closer, I can start looking at the engine and putting that in here.